Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the FF Face-Off, the best fantasy football show out there, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, Mike. What about you?
I'm always good because it's Thursday and my team can't lose today like they will every Sunday. Same could be said for your team, too, and they lost to the Jets. Real quick, though. Let's talk about Vic Fangio. And Vic Fangio had an idea that is not a new idea, but I just thought I'd see what your idea on it is, and that is to have an AFC and an NFC, but to not have divisions and just take the top 6 teams in each division or in each conference, and those guys make the playoffs. What do you think?
I don't hate it. I'm just so used to the way it is now. I don't know how I would feel about a change. I don't like a lot of change.
Well, my other question about that is this. How do you have a fair schedule then? You know, because if you're in a division like the Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, and that other team up north, the Browns, they're in a division, and they'll play each other twice. But then also, they're going to play pretty much the same teams all year. If you do this with all 16 teams, how do you make sure that this is as fair scheduling-wise as it can be so you get the best teams? Because it's possible that if you get a division that is stacked, you know, it's going to be harder to win games. Your record may not be as good as, say, the Cowboys had somebody other than Jason Garrett coaching them this year. With their division the way it is, they've probably already won it. They've probably got 10 or 11 wins. But they may not be as good as a team like in the NFC North. You know, you may have a team that only goes 8-8 that's a better team.
But how do you make it fair the other way?
What do you mean, how do you make it fair?
How do you make it fair without the divisions?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you can. And that's my issue with it. Yeah. So, I mean, scheduling, you know, NCAA football comes up against this all the time.
You keep divisions and, see...
Yeah, you can keep the divisions, but still
and then just the top teams, the top records make the playoffs, but then what the hell's the point of division?
Yeah, there is no point.
If you're not playing for anything.
Yeah. And that's my whole problem with this. It sounds great, but, I mean, it's like Major League Baseball when they went to just playing the American League against the National League teams in the regular season. I think that it takes away from things. And also, it can skew who wins a division in baseball, because if you are the Mets and you have to play the Yankees every year so they can make their money off your rivalry series, while another team in your division, like the Marlins, is playing the Tampa Bay Rays, who are a good team, but they're not the Yankees, and you end up losing by a game or two in that division, that just affected that.
Yeah, I just don't see any other way to make it work.
I don't either.
And keep everybody happy.
Yeah, because it seems like a great idea that you get the top 6 teams that way. But I think it throws the scheduling off that you may still not get the best 6 teams. You may have a team end up with 10 wins that's the 6th seed, and a team that is the 7th seed has 9 wins, but they played a much tougher schedule. So I think Vic Fangio's idea fails as badly as he has coaching the Denver Broncos this year. What do you think? That was mean, wasn't it?
I mean, all things considered, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, he could have been. And actually, I think over the last few weeks, I think defensively the team's gotten better in Denver. What do? You got scratch-offs? You playing lottery tickets?
No.
It sounds like it. It sounds like you got a quarter and you rub it off lottery tickets.
I don't play a lot of lottery, actually.
I don't play any lottery. You know what I think the lottery is? I think the lottery is the government's way to get poor people to pay taxes.
Everybody pays taxes. Well, you're supposed to.
No, they don't, because if your family makes $25,000 a year, a family of four, you're getting money back. Correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and you get back with the child care credit, maybe 7 or 8 grand. You didn't pay in 7 or 8 grand if you're 24,000. So how does the government get their money? Well, they go up to the local convenience store. They put lottery tickets up there at $1 a pop, and then you see all these people furiously scratching that are broke as hell, hoping they can pay their rent through the lottery tickets. That's how the government gets the rest of the tax money. That's just my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Makes sense when you think about it, though, doesn't it?
It does.
All right. There you go. It's settled. Um, all right. What do you think about Antonio Brown and his comments about Big Ben Roethlisberger, and if he was a different skin tone, then maybe his rape allegations would have been taken as seriously as Antonio Brown's?
I don't know how much I put into that. You know, Antonio Brown, this isn't somebody who's exactly, I don't take what he says seriously a lot of times because of his antics. I think he's not right. So I don't put too much into there. And I think whatever happened with Ben Roethlisberger all those years ago, I don't know if a skin color would have changed the outcome. Do you?
I don't know if it's necessarily the skin color. What I think is this, though. Big Ben was one of the faces of the NFL. You know, he's with maybe the most popular team in the NFL. I know you hate to hear that, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, wherever they travel, usually have half the crowd in the damn stands. And why would you want to take Big Ben away? You know, and we look at Peyton Manning, which we've talked about before, and the fact is this. Big Ben Roethlisberger paid that woman off almost $1 million. If I did something like that, I think no matter what it costs me, I'm going to try to clear my name. I'm not just going to pay her off. And it happened a couple different occasions. And yeah, I think this. I think that Michael Vick and what he did with the dogs was horrendous. But what's worse?
I don't know. I don't get too much into the politics and should somebody be convicted or if the case was prosecuted correctly. It's not my place.
Yeah, but it's not politics. It's just you as a man. If you were accused of something like that, you didn't do it. You got to pay her $900,000 to shut up. The same thing with the Peyton Manning case. And I'm just saying that you cannot get into the politics of it, but it does affect the NFL the way different people are treated differently. I mean, we've had this conversation on other shows where, you know, Nolan Ryan, for some reason in his 40s, threw the ball faster than he did when he was in his mid-30s. But nobody will ever bring up the steroids with Nolan Ryan because everybody likes Nolan Ryan. But Barry Bonds, who was an asshole to everybody in the media, you know, everybody will bring up the steroids with him. It gets brought up with Mark McGwire, but everybody liked Mark McGwire, so it's not pushed as much. So I think it does have something to do with it. I just do. And I think Antonio Brown screws himself over because he acts like an idiot all the time.
I think he does that too, and it's hard to take him serious.
Yeah.
And you question the motive. That's where I go. What's the motive here?
Well, I don't question the motive here because I think he's got a point, but I question all of his other motives on every other point he's ever made. I'm just saying that I do see where there's some truth here. Because I do think if Michael Vick would have been accused of being in a bathroom with a white woman and doing what Ben Roethlisberger was accused of, I don't think it would have just disappeared.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But, all right. So, anytime I can take a shot at Ben Roethlisberger, I'm up for it. What else you want to talk about today, NFL-wise, Anthony?
I mean, there is a semblance of a game tonight. But, I guess before we get into that, we can go over some of the NFL news. And there was a lot of players banged up for the Steelers, some of their more significant offensive stars. We talked about, I think, on yesterday's show. But James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster are going to be back this week.
And this
for the
is
first
a huge
time,
game.
I think 3 or 4 months.
I mean, if they win this game, they have a legit chance to be a playoff team when all's said and done.
And it's a winnable game.
In the NFL, every game's a winnable game. We see it every week where come on, Tampa Bay went down and put, 40 or 50 points on the Saints and beat them. They put 50 on the Rams in L.A. and beat them. So any game's a winnable game in the NFL. But, yeah, because the Bills are somewhat like the Steelers, where they play defense and they run the ball, which leads this to be a close game at the end. So my question is, do you trust the Duck or, Josh Allen?
I think if the Steelers win this game, they need to turn Josh Allen over, and Josh Allen's been a lot better with the turnovers and the ball security, really in the second half of the year. You need to contain Cole Beasley because he has been quietly one of the best free agent signings at a skill position this offseason, especially in the past 3 or 4 games. So the defense is going to have to come up big and probably need to score at some point.
Yeah, and I think what this game ends up being is both teams trying to play it safe and let their defenses win it. So bet the under in Vegas.
Oh, absolutely.
But I do think the difference in this game, with no turnovers, the difference between Allen and the Duck is Allen can run. And Allen's legs, I think, could be a huge difference in this game. Because the Steelers will play a lot of man coverage. And if they play a lot of man coverage in this game, in Buffalo, you could line up, run 4 vert, and if you're playing man, they're either leaving one go or they're going to bail with all of them, and you just run Josh Allen on a perimeter all day until you make him go to his own, which then makes it easier to run the ball with your running backs. But it's actually one of the games I look forward to this week because even though it's a defensive struggle, I don't mind a defensive struggle with some blood and spit and stuff like that.
They've always been my favorite games.
Oh, yeah. Everybody else freaks out over the 52 to 50s, but I like the 1991 AFC Championship game is a game I always think about because everybody always talks about how it was a terrible game. I think it was a 10-3 final or 10-7 final where the Buffalo Bills beat John Elway's Denver Broncos. And actually, Elway got hurt in that game and wasn't in for the final drive. Gary Kubiak had to do it, which always made me wonder what happens. And that was a Wade Phillips coach team, but that was one of the most physical games you'll ever see. I thought it was a great football game. Another one would have been the 90 NFC Championship game between the Giants and the Niners, which I think is one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. And I don't think there was a touchdown scored in that game. I think it ended up like 15-13. Maybe the Niners scored 1, but the difference was Roger Craig fumbled the ball at the end, and Matt Barr kicks the field goal. So I think those games get undersold a lot. It's just like if you're in a playoff situation and it's a baseball game, and it's 1991 World Series Game 7 sticks out to me. It was a 1-0 game, but it was a 1-0 game where every pitch a winner could have been decided. It was a great game. So
yeah, I'm not a big baseball guy.
I know. You're a communist. That's what's happened basically to America. It's because you don't remember when baseball was great. You just remember when it was pumped up steroid guys hitting home runs or striking out.
It's just too slow paced for me. I've always been a football guy. That's always been my thing since I was a kid. It was football.
Yeah, but you were a kid in what year?
84 I was born.
84. So you probably don't really remember sports-wise until early 90s?
Yeah, for the most part.
Well, if you're a Cowboys fan, there was no reason to remember 86 through 89 anyway, so you didn't miss anything there. And that's
those teams were Dallas teams were bad.
Yeah, I like the 1988 Cowboys team that the Bengals put like 40 points on and beat the hell out of. Yeah, I liked baseball in the 70s and 80s. It was a different sport after that. Um, how about this? Do you think the Patriots are dead? Do you think there's any way the Patriots could find themselves in the Super Bowl again?
I'm never going to count the Patriots out. I'm not one. I'm not trying to be one of those guys in the media trying to predict the demise of Tom Brady and the Patriots, because they've proved so many times in the past 5 years when people are burying them, they're going to find a way. And this is a pretty good defense. This isn't like a Baltimore Ravens 2000 or an 85 Bears or
You
even those
can't be.
Giants.
There can never be a defense like that again because of the rules.
Right. So, but as good as this defense is, I think that their offense does need to play a little bit better. But we've seen, I feel like we've seen worse offenses win Super Bowls. No,
Who?
didn't the Giants? I mean, the Giants. They're 80. What was it, 86 and 90 or 91? I feel like their offenses weren't powerhouses, right? That was the Parcells and Belichick defense.
What you had, though, the '86 team was a really good offense with Phil Simms. You had Mark Bavaro at tight end, which was the precursor to Gronkowski. You had Joe Morris, who was like a 1,300-yard rusher every year. A great offensive line. And Phil Simms was a damn good quarterback. The '90 team, Simms got knocked out like week 12 in a loss to Buffalo. They lost to Buffalo, I think, by a touchdown, like 24-17. Jeff Hostetler had to come in, but you had O.J. Anderson running the ball. And Otis Anderson was a guy who on the '86 Giants was actually, I don't even think he was active for the game. I know he didn't get in the game because he was considered too old then. Because Otis Anderson was a guy in 1979, his rookie season, actually went neck and neck with Walter Payton for the rushing title. And with the Cardinals from 79 to about 83, Otis Anderson was one of the best running backs in football. And the one thing that comes back with that Giants team, though, which you don't see with this Patriots team, and it's the same thing if you bring up the Ravens or the Bucks teams that didn't seem like they had great offenses, what they had were great offensive lines. And this New England Patriot team does not have that. And the reason I asked the question is because I'm never going to doubt Bill Belichick even if they lose every game the rest of the year, just because I've got 30 other years that he's coached to base this on. The only thing I look at here, is the New England Patriots last year had a great defense. They've got a great defense again. But they also had Rob Gronkowski to throw the ball to. They don't anymore.
Yeah, but Gronk was a shell of himself last year.
He made a couple
of big. Right, he made a couple of big plays in the playoffs, but
the thing is this: a shell of Gronk takes two guys.
What they have now.
It makes everybody else better because he's there. Now the other thing is this: they were a great running team last year. They haven't been this year. So, and I think when you look at this, you can say they got a great defense so they could do it. But I don't think that's the case nowadays. Not the way the NFL is designed. I know last year they did it in that one-game situation with the Rams. But if you look in the earlier playoff game, I mean, hell, they gave up, 35 points to the Chiefs. They gave up, 24 points to the Chargers, even though most of them were late. But I think that the NFL has kind of legislated out of the game defenses win championships. Because if you can't score points for the most part now, you can't win a championship. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. And it's why I will still say that Seahawks Legion of Doom defense that beat the Broncos was the last great defense we'll ever see. I think it was the greatest defense we'll ever see. I think it was better than the 85 Bears because Seattle had to play by completely different rules. And the rules today are designed for games to be 45-40.
I think the Patriots, and I'm trying to read up on something now from a New England, a New England-based publication about Damian Harris, because I've said this on this show and I've said this on my show. Maybe he is that wild card that Bill Belichick might unleash in the postseason. I think you got to put him on the field now, unless Belichick knows something we don't, and there's always that chance. But Sony Michel has been inefficient, and they've been basically phasing him out of the game as soon as they trail and letting James White and then mixing in Rex Burkhead a little bit, who are better receivers, go ahead and carry the ball too. I feel like Damian Harris is a better receiver than Sony Michel, and he's a better runner than James White. So why not give him a shot?
Yeah, but my
But we
point
know
here.
that Bella. I just won't count him out. But
Well,
there
this is the thing
that
now.
factor. They spent a high draft pick on it.
Well, this is the thing. When I look at this, I just don't see the weapons to get it done, no matter what he does right now. Now, that could change. And if the Damian Harris is a wild card thing, that's, I think that is a possibility.
That makes and let's say he is the wild card and he doesn't pull the wild card out until the postseason. That just makes Belichick, look even smarter. That he knew what he's had the whole time.
But why hasn't Damian Harris played?
I mean, he's played. I think he's had 5 touches all season long.
Yeah, and the problem with Damian Harris at Alabama was injuries. The same thing. They had the same problem with Bo Scarborough. That's why one of them would usually be the stud for one game, and the other would be the stud for the other one.
Yeah, but that's the same narrative with Sony Michel, and Sony Michel's been healthy this year, but he's not getting the workload in a lot of games.
All right. You got anything else you want to discuss before we talk Jets-Ravens?
I mean, let's go right into that game tonight.
All right. Good. Give me your take on it, because I actually think this. I think if there's anything wrong with Lamar Jackson's legs at all, and he has to stand in the pocket and beat the Jets are going to win tonight.
That's the Jets are missing again. They're missing Jamal Adams, and I know they were able to win last week, but that was over the Dolphins, and that was over a Dolphins team that their top 2 wide receivers, Devontae Parker and Albert Wilson, were out of the game with concussions a couple of minutes in, or even a couple of quarters in, and Miami still almost won that game. So now you're going to say that the Jets have a shot of winning. I understand that they're at home and they play better at home. I just don't know how this offense is going to put up any points on this Ravens defense.
Well, my question to you is, can the Jets slow down a Ravens offense that does not have the threat of Lamar Jackson running the ball?
Even slowed down, you put up 21 points on this Jets defense. I mean, Lamar Jackson, you would think he's at least good enough to where if he does have to make a couple of plays from inside the pocket, this is a Jets secondary, again, without Jamal Adams, and they were already one of the worst secondaries in the league with him.
I'm just getting some betting updates from the Sheridan Report, who right now you would get 8-1 odds, it looks like, to bet the Jets to win. And it's a 16.5-point spread. Would you give the 16.5 points?
I might take the points. Mark Andrews, they're saying that he's going to give it a shot, which suggests to me that he's going to be extremely limited or in that decoy role if he is actually active. But, Hayden Hurst was actually drafted ahead of Mark Andrews last year. He's a first-round pedigree tight end. They have Nick Boyle, so I don't know how much changes without a Mark Andrews in the lineup or a fully healthy Mark Andrews. They're going to still run the ball. They have a couple of good running backs, whether it's Gus Edwards or Mark Ingram. I think it'll be a closer game than the point spread suggests, but the Baltimore Ravens should win this game easily.
All right.
If they are what we think they are, or what they have been playing like, they should really win. It shouldn't be an issue.
All right. Did you hear about the NFL players that are accused of defrauding the league's health care program?
Yes.
All right. What's your take on that? Do you know the whole story, or?
I glanced at it. I didn't dig really deep into it.
Let's do this.
But...
I'll read what was sent to me from Bobby in California. Yes, Bobby Sheridan sent this to me. 10 former NFL players, including ex-Washington Redskin running back Clinton Portis, has been charged with defrauding the league's health program of millions of dollars. The players are among a group of 12 facing charges in the Eastern District of Kentucky. The Department of Justice announced Thursday they are accused of filing more than $3.9 million in fraudulent claims, of which more than $3.4 million were paid from June 2017 to December 2017 to December of 2018. Along with the charges that were announced, the Department of Justice said it will seek charges against two others, including former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Joe Horn. 10 former NFL players allegedly committed a brazen, multi-million-dollar fraud on a health care plan meant to help their former teammates, and other retired players pay legitimate out-of-pocket medical expenses, Assistant Attorney General Brian Benkowski said. Today's indictments underscore that whoever you are, if you loot health care program to line your own pockets, you will be held accountable by the Department of Justice. The other players charged are Robert McCoon, John Eubanks, Tamarick Vanover, Carlos Rogers, Sandra, I don't know how to say his name, so we'll leave him out of this, James Butler, Fred Bennett, Corell Buckholder, and Ettrick Pruitt. The government also intends to charge Donald Caldwell. Reached by ESPN's John Keim, Portis said, "I don't have any comment at this time." Prosecutors allege the players targeted the Gene Upshaw NFL Player Health Reimbursement Account Plan, which was established as part of the collective bargaining agreement in 2006. It provides tax-free reimbursement of out-of-pocket medical care expenses that were not covered by insurance and that were incurred by former players or spouses and dependents. According to the indictments, the players made claims for expensive pieces of medical equipment such as hyperbolic oxygen chambers, cryotherapy machines, ultrasound machines, and electromagnetic therapy devices that weren't purchased or received. The typical claim was from $40,000 to $50,000. Several of the former players are accused of recruiting other players to join the scheme and would make the claim in return for kickbacks of up to $10,000. The indictment alleges the fabricated letters from healthcare providers about using the medical equipment, fabricated prescriptions that were purportedly signed by healthcare providers, and created fake invoices for medical equipment companies in an effort to prove the equipment was purchased. That's the whole story.
Okay, so what do you? Again, these are those things I don't really get too much involved with. But what do you want to say? There's just some bad eggs, What do you want? They're trying to beat the system. It's not just NFL players trying to beat the system.
So yeah, I know because the NFL does it all the time. I say good for the players. Seriously, I don't care. The NFL is allowed by the Department of Justice. I mean, the NFL was allowed to be a tax-exempt entity until 2014 or 15. They didn't even have to pay taxes as an NFL. They've screwed players over repeatedly, so now some players went out and tried to get their own. Good for them.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the thing. Ricky Dixon right now is dying of ALS. Ricky Dixon played for the Bengals in Super Bowl 23. Ricky Dixon filed a claim for disability, which still has not been approved. He is on a ventilator about to die, and his family has no insurance, and the NFL will not do anything. Screw the NFL. I mean, the Department of Justice ought to do something about companies that don't take care of their employees, that turn them into multi-billion-dollar companies. They wouldn't need to be defrauded if they actually took care of the players when the players were done, but they don't. And what you got there outside of Clinton Portis was the name of 9 guys who we probably never heard of, and if we did, it was for a short amount of time. I mean, look at Steve Gleason. I mean, the NFL parades him all over the place. They don't do that with Ricky Dixon because they won't approve his claim yet. And there's been all kind of players like that where their claims, I mean, there's guys with CTE that can't remember what their name is, that are in nursing homes, that the NFL is still fighting giving them their payments. So I really don't care about this. I hope those players were just trying to steal money. I hope they were trying to get back what they were owed.
Like I said, this goes beyond NFL players. There are people in any field, any industry, who are trying to do the same thing,
Yeah,
and
good
it
for
is what
them.
it is.
Good
It is
for
what it is.
every one of them. You know what it costs
Yeah.
for diabetes or for dialysis? I mean, the thing is this, to sit here and listen to people talk about defrauding healthcare, people have to defraud healthcare because healthcare is defrauding the American people. I mean, people bitch about the NRA, but I think the money given by places like Pfizer and Merck and Dow Chemical are like 100 times more than the NRA gives. And I think it's an absolute joke. I mean, if you need a prescription filled, I mean, I know of people personally who have died because they didn't have health care and nobody would take care of them. You know, I've got a cousin right now that needs to be in a healthcare facility. Instead, he's in a homeless shelter. And the homeless shelter's getting ready to kick him out because they can't keep up with all the needs, and they tell him he needs to go to basically an old folks home to take care of him. But he doesn't have any insurance, so he's left on the street.
Yeah, it's not right.
No, and the fact is this, all these homeless people out here, you know, the majority of them are not there because they want to be. And hell, a large part of them are there because they went and served this country. And when they got out, they had PTSD or they had other medical issues, and this country turned their back on them. So I think everybody ought to defraud the U.S. healthcare as much as they possibly can, because I think the U.S. healthcare system's an absolute joke, and they run our government. I mean, just look at the
It's
amount of money
definitely flawed.
politicians get. It's beyond flawed. It's dead. It's broke. It's just a bunch of corrupt assholes just reaching their hands in you and my pants all the time, trying to take what they want money-wise from us. And the problem is, if the American public does something underhanded to take advantage of them, they'll put you in jail right away. But they do all kind of underhanded stuff on Capitol Hill that they're allowed to get away with all the time. You know, if you're dying of cancer and you get your life saved, unfortunately, you probably got about $40 million in medical bills waiting for you after that. So, I don't know. Jets and Ravens. Take the Jets and the points. What do you think? I don't know. What's the weather supposed to be there tonight? Any idea?
I mean, it's not. It's nice here. I'm here in South Jersey right now.
Oh, so you're close to Baltimore. Huh. All right. Did you see that the Eagles
Wait, I thought this
what?
game was in New York.
No, it's in Baltimore, I think.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. Because when I looked it up, it said Jets at
Oh no,
Ravens.
yeah, it is in Baltimore. Considering it's in Baltimore now, because I thought this game was a home game for the Jets for some reason, and it's been a long week for me. I'm going to take. You know what? I will take the Ravens and the points. If it was in New York, I would have a different tone. But the Jets are a different team on the road. The Ravens are a dominant team at home when they're playing an inferior opponent.
I don't know. I just think 16.5 points is a lot to give in any NFL game. And it will be 30 degrees, no wind. This is from Bobby Sheridan, who once again, Jets are plus 800 on the money line, plus 16.5 at Baltimore. I could actually tell you this, I wouldn't bet it at all, just because I don't think the Jets are any good, except for the fact that I really like them because they beat up the Dallas Cowboys earlier in the season. So I'm going to see if I can get that in every show for the next year.
I'm sure you could.
I think I can too. I just need all the listeners out there to make sure that if we get deep into a show and I haven't brought it up, text it to me so I don't forget. See, you can just throw up any random name outside of the New York Jets because the Bengals beat the Jets who beat the Cowboys, and I can't really fight back with anything. But what do you think the Cowboys-Rams looks like this week? And let me ask you this: who's got the better roster?
Um, I don't trust the Cowboys at all right now.
That's not what I'm
Um,
asking you. I'm just asking you player-wise, because actually,
well, you
I
asked me
think the
what do I think about the game. I actually think Dallas could get blown out.
yeah, but I mean, which team do you think has the better roster?
Um, I would say it's pretty even.
Yeah, because we go to quarterback. I would take Dak over Goff. I would take Zeke over Gurley just because I don't think Gurley's healthy. I think if Gurley was like he was the first half of last year, I'd take him over anybody. But wide receivers wise, who's better, Rams or Cowboys?
It's very close.
Offensive line, I don't think it's close as the Cowboys.
And then, defensively, I would probably give the defense to the Rams at all phases,
All
except
phases.
maybe at linebacker, because I like
Is Van Der Esch
Dallas's.
going to play this week?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't play again, that's really, that without Van Der Esch out there, there's a vast difference in how that team plays.
Well, that and also the nose tackle who likes to smoke weed and not play because he gets hurt. Yeah, I think your Cowboys are in trouble, but luckily for the Cowboys, so are the Eagles.
Oh yeah, the Eagles just officially put Alshon Jeffrey on the injured reserve list.
Yeah, so they may not even have any wide receivers when they play Dallas in a couple weeks. Then it just comes down to if, Jason Garrett has enough sense to just give it to Ezekiel Elliott and keep giving it to him. And I can tell you this, the Rams, Sean McVay, if they come out and they run Gurley 20 times and beat the Cowboys, I'm going to say he might be a good coach. Because I think the thing we've seen the last 2 weeks is him kind of change the way he was playing. And I didn't know if that was possible for him. Because with a lot of guys that like to run the offense he runs, a lot of times they won't change it for anything. So I think that if you see the Rams go, heavy on the ground and beat the Dallas Cowboys, he's not going to win me over, but I think he's headed in the right direction. I'm sure that's not important to him, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Like, the Rams, with the way things have been going, they've been going in the right direction. Cowboys been going in the wrong direction, and barring some kind of a change from Jason Garrett, which we haven't seen a change in 10 years,
decade, yeah.
The Rams should win this game.
Yeah.
Easily.
But Jared Goff, to me, looks more like an Olympic swimmer than a football player. Well, he's tall, skinny, he's got blonde hair, maybe a surfer. But
maybe a surfer.
I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we got everything covered.
All righty. Well, tomorrow we can come back and talk about the Ravens-Jets game for a little bit. We'll break into some NFL news, and then we'll preview and pick all the games for Sunday, including the Cowboys and Rams, and the game that everybody's looking forward to, which is the Bengals and the Patriots. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for now. Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru, and you can find my show at the FF Face-Off. It can be found at all of the top social media and podcast platforms.
All right, you can find the Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth. If you're a hockey fan, the new NHL Weekly show started today. You can find that on thegruelingtruth.com. Sam Tietz's article on ranking all 32 quarterbacks, you can find that on there today also. And the On This Day podcast with today, talking about Gale Sayers and his 6 touchdowns, December the 12th, 1965 against the San Francisco 49ers in a Bears 61-20 win at Wrigley Field. All right, guys, you can hear us wherever you find podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, doesn't matter where it is, we're there. So for now, for Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.